And we're live. Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to the Mojo Show, your real estate podcast where we talk about everything real estate. I'm your host, Joe Mortgage.
And I'm Cup of Joe Mortgage.
This week's episode, we're wrapping up our series on utilizing your home's equity. Because since COVID, many homeowners have seen a definite increase in the value of their homes. But how can you tap into that equity for different financial reasons? And today we're going to focus on using your home's equity for home improvements. But before we get to that, a little coffee talk with the Joes to kick things off. Joe, 2 days from now is 4th of July holiday. What a great holiday to celebrate our independence as a nation. What do you like to, you and your family, what do you guys like to do on the 4th?
Well, last year we kind of stopped at one of the traditions of having kind of the neighborhood fireworks show. I had a good friend that used to do it all the time. He passed during COVID, but we kept it alive for a couple more years, and then just families growing and everything else. And so last year was the first year we didn't do it, but we also go to friends' houses for a party. And we just, it's a great time to spend with family. It's a great time to spend with friends and just, have a day of celebrating, the country. We all kind of just get in and everybody's got either their flag shirt on or red, white, and blue on. And so it's a lot of fun and different desserts and things like that. And I think one year we had a kind of a fruit dessert that had it was made just like the flag, right? It had the stars and the everything, and it was amazing how some people just come up with these creative things. But that's what I enjoy, is just celebrating it and being with friends and family during those times. But what about you, Joe?
Yeah, we typically, back in Michigan, right? And believe it or not, it's been almost 2 years. August will be 2 years that I moved here.
Wow.
So back in Michigan, my daughter and I, Sam and I, we would go to this place. It's called Algonac is the name of the city, right? And it's right on a St. Clair River that goes through down to Detroit. And they would bring a barge along on the river there, and they'd shoot fireworks off of that. But you're right on the boardwalk. Right. I mean, so cool. You are so close. You can definitely see the guys on the barge, lighting these things, right. And shooting them off. What a show. Every year they put on a great show. So we would always do that here, though. This year, at least, going to invite we've got to invite the in-laws to come over now. Now that I have in-laws.
As I say, you haven't said that one in a while either.
Now that I have in-laws, so we got them all coming over Friday. We're just going to throw burgers and stuff on the grill and everything, and have a good meal before going over to the Walden area for the fireworks there.
Okay.
And it's kind of cool because they actually, the driving range of the golf course there, the Walden Country. So you go out on the drive, you grab a spot on the driving range, your chairs, blankets, whatever, sit there and watch it from there. So pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, we that kind of leads to another one. We're gonna get coffee talk's gonna go a little longer. We've always done the fireworks shows and things like that, and one of the best memories that I have is I think it was the second year after John passed away. We were doing it, I think it was the first year. We were doing it on our driveway. And we had probably, I don't know, $2,000, $3,000 worth of fireworks between a couple of families. In the end, we had all the kids, lined up holding Roman candles.
Oh, wow.
And they were all shooting them off. And then, at the end, we did one big box that was going off. And I just went up to Aaron, his son. He's like, Hunter and him are great friends. And Aaron's one of the best kids that I know. And I just went up and put my arm around him. And that was one of my favorite memories. I'm going to get emotional. I'm going to try not to. But just, because those people in my life, right?
Yeah.
But that's one of my favorite memories about fireworks is just all the kids lined up and just seeing it all.
Yeah.
And then that part of it. So It's an awesome feeling when you have a group of people like that. So,
well, family and friends mean a lot, no doubt about it. So
that's right. And you know me, I'm an emotional big guy anyway. So
we'll just move it right along with today's talk about using your equity in your home to be able to do some home improvements.
yeah.
Right? And as I know Joe always pops it, anyone that's listening in, if you've got questions, comments, please post them. We would love to talk about them live while we're on the air.
We would also like to know why if you differ from an opinion on what we're saying about using the equity in your home. I know there's financial advisors out there that might, have difference of opinions. I know accountants might have difference of opinions in certain cases. We want to know those too, because yes, we're sharing our insights, and that's the wonderful thing about this show being ours, right? Is we get to talk, and we don't take live calls, so we don't have people that can cut us off, but we do always show the comments. So please put them in there. Ask those questions, because Joe does a great job. He comes up with these topics, and thank you, Joe, for all this hard work you do. But kind of getting in today, the why use the equity of your home to do renovations. Why do you think people do renovations, and why using the home's equity is a smart choice or not?
Well, I know anytime that I've done home improvements, I looked at it from really two standpoints, right? One is making it more of my character into the home, I guess you could say, my style and that into the home, whether it's the color on the walls, whether there's crown molding or not, or maybe the tile in the backsplash, of the kitchen walls and stuff, or even the landscape, right? But it was also to help build the value of the home.
Yeah.
Right. Is I think a big one for everyone, is building the value. But it's also knowing where to put that value in what part of the house. And I would ask everyone that's listening in, watching, that if there was an improvement, what room or what improvement would you do to your home? If you had the choice, if you had the funds to do it, what would be the improvement that you would want on your home? What room would it be in, and what's the improvement? Drop it in the comments below. We'd love to chat about it.
Well, we're going to get to some of that on topic 3, right? So you guys got some time to put those in, because this is where we want to, answer those or share that information. Joe, I agree with you. When it comes to buying an existing home, you weren't the one that got to build it. You weren't the one that got to pick out the cabinetry, the granite and things like that. So taking some of that equity after you've been in the house, especially if you bought the home in 2019 or 2020, those were times where people were bidding more than what the house was worth and buying. But those homes now have equity in them too. So utilizing that and changing up the kitchen, or something to your style. That's one of my wife's big things, right? We have not built a house together yet and lived in it, but we've also remodeled a bunch of homes, but we only changed the layout of one kitchen in all the houses we've ever done. And that was our house up in Minnesota.
Okay.
And we didn't use the equity to do it. We used all of our savings.
Oh, wow.
And so that's why this series and this topic has been important to me, is when you're doing renovations, you can use your savings account by all means.
Sure.
But how long is it going to take you to replenish that savings? And what happens if there's an emergency that comes up? Now you don't have the liquidity anymore. So, when it comes to doing that, pulling the equity out, in my opinion, is one of the smarter ways of doing it. And I know, Joe, we talked about it before, is with these renovations, what type of loan might be the best one? Right. So I want to know your opinion on that. When you're talking about taking equity out of your home, you're talking about paint, you're talking about things like that, what you just said. What dollar amount would you start thinking of pulling equity out of the home on the renovations you're wanting to do? Because there's difference in maintenance and there's difference in freshening up versus renovations. And I want to make sure, like, our audience knows There's a difference in just painting your walls. There's a difference in just, maybe doing one carpet in one bedroom. But what is that dollar amount to you if you're doing renovations that you're starting to look at, okay, is it smart for me to pull equity out of my home to do these renovations?
I think everybody's going to be a little different on that number, right? Because it depends on what you have in savings.
Mhm.
And, if you have enough in savings to where, like my home in Michigan, when I redid the floor, I put in a wood floor for the entire first floor. And I think it ended up being right around $2,000,
Yep.
right, in materials and everything. And I put it in myself. I love doing that kind of work, right? I love working on how. So for that, I took it out of savings and paid for it, right? But I think once you get, in having the funds in savings to be able to do that is for a project like that is, I think, okay, good in just
Yep.
taking it out of the savings. But once you get like probably $10,000 or more, I think that's really when you're going to want to take a look at tapping into the equity, because it lets you really, that equity allows you to reinvest into what you already own.
Yeah.
Right. Making the value increase even more.
And I would love to know if we have any contractors or home improvement people listening to the show right now. We would love to know, because I know there's other options for financing and things like that to do the work. But I'd love to know, anybody that's listening, what is your opinion on the value that you're trying to put into the house? Like not the value, excuse me, the expense of the renovations. What is that dollar amount for you that you're like, okay, I need to look into a loan to get that done? I kind of differ on that,
What do you think?
in different ways, right? If it's going to cost me, like doing flooring like you did, Joe, I agree. If it's a couple of $1,000s, pulling that out and of your savings, or maybe putting it on a 0% interest credit card at Nebraska Furniture Mart, because that's where we got some carpet. But it was a short-term thing that I knew we'd be able to pay off. And it was only like, I think it was like $2,200.
And in 6 months, you should be able to pay that off, right?
Yeah. And so, but one thing I want everybody to think about is, well, if you're doing one thing to your house, okay, great. Get that done. You can do bits and pieces. But if you have, an AC unit that's over 15 years, 20 years, and it hasn't been regularly serviced, if you have a septic system that maybe needs a new pump or maybe needs to be, changed up, these are also renovations that they don't add instant equity to your house, but it will prolong the life of your home.
Right.
And the cost of the repairs down the road. So if you're doing something that's maybe, I want you to think about this. If our house, when we sold it, it was built in 2001. We sold it in 2024, right? You think about that, you're thinking, oh, the house was just built in 2000. It's not that old. No, it's your roof is coming to age. Your AC units are 20 plus years.
Right. Water heater, what have you.
Yeah. Well, so on that, start thinking about, okay, I have equity in my home. Are there other things that need to be done?
Right. Right.
And so that's where I think that dollar amount is around 20,000, in my opinion, because if I'm anywhere from 15 to 20,000, I need to try to think of, are there other things that I need to do now? Because I'm going to have to tap into the equity of my home, because I don't want to spend 20 grand out of my savings account or pull it out of my retirement account if I can take it out of my home. And
I think you bring up a good point, Joe, because the last year or so that I was in my home in Michigan, I was doing updates because I knew I was moving, right? I'd planned it for several years. And so that year before, I was trying to update some things. And as I went along, it probably would have been smart to take some equity out of my home to pay, because I ended up doing this project, and then it was this project, and then the air conditioner did go, right? So I had to replace the air. By the time I add all those things up over the last year that I was there, maybe a year and a half, yeah, it probably would have been smart to take some equity out of the home to pay for it all.
Yeah. Well, we have our first one, our friend and consistent follower, Josh Reed. And I actually got to watch some of the transformation of Josh's remodel. So He recently used a home equity or the equity in the home for new floors throughout the home. They also had, the living rooms with a one step down.
Yep.
So they raised the floor and made it all level, throughout the house so all the flooring's the same in the house. And the flooring in that cost a lot more money. So pulling out the equity was very smart for Josh. So great job, Josh, on sharing that. And I see the next target. So he's already answering that question for you, Joe. Where else are you going to do it? And then that next target for him is remodeling that kitchen.
Good.
Nice. I know that kind of brings us into more of conversations of what you're doing, what to do and what areas. But Josh also said anything over 10% of your annual income is worth looking into pull a loan. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. That's
so think of your income. If you're making 150,000, if it's 15,000 or more, pulling a loan is very smart, for that. So it kind of fits in that same category as what we're talking about from a dollar standpoint. So great insight. Thank you, Josh.
In pulling the equity out of your home, there's a couple of different ways of doing it. Of course, there's a cash out refinance. There's a HELOC, right? Home equity line of credit. And I know we've talked about this in the other two shows, but let's kind of revisit it because each, financial goal that we have gone through, whether it's for purchasing a second home or investment property, which was the first show. The second one was about, paying off debt. This one is in regards to home improvement. So in those different areas, Joe, let's say it is a 15 or 20,000, like you were talking about, as far as, kind of the threshold to be able to start pulling equity out. What would be the best, in your opinion, resource to use? A cash out refi, a HELOC, or a closed end second?
Oof. That's a very loaded question. Nash does these loaded questions to get LOs to do different role plays and things, right? So you kind of threw this one on me. I was not expecting that question, to tell you the truth. But Josh's comment kind of leads me to it's going to be case by case depending on the situation. Good. So in Josh's case, they needed, to pull out equity to do the flooring and the paint. And, at that point, I would say, okay, that's a closed-ended if I didn't know the second part to his comment. So asking a deeper question as an originator and a professional, I'm going to try to uncover what are your future plans of this too. So if you don't have any future plans, like for my wife and I, right, when we did the pool in the upstairs, we knew that's exactly what we wanted to do. We didn't have any other plans to do the kitchen or anything else at that time for at least 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
And so in that case, I would say closed-ended.
Okay.
Do a closed-ended second, start paying down the principal, make those payments because you know exactly what you want to do and the exact cost. In Josh's situation, he knew what he wanted to do right now, but also knows that they want to do a kitchen remodel. So in my opinion, in that one, I would probably look more of a line of credit, a HELOC.
Right.
Because, you're going to want to do more. And I can put you in a HELOC that has a 10-year draw period or a 5-year draw period. And so that means like, okay, we did this. We want to wait a year. We want to do again. Well, if you're on that HELOC, which is the home equity line of credit, I know I keep using the acronym, but that's what it is. If you're using that HELOC, you can wait another year or even 2 years and then draw on it again.
Right.
But I'm also going to, what was that?
You're only being charged interest on what you're drawing out. Keep that in mind, right?
The only thing is I'm going to educate every buyer or every borrower that's doing that loan is don't treat it like a credit card. Don't pull it out and just buy random things. Don't go and just buy plants. Don't treat it that way. Treat it as, a true equity loan that, you're making payments to, but don't only make that minimum payment on it either, because we already talked about that in the previous episode, is it's a revolving credit line. So, make larger payments to that, just like you would like a 30-day American Express.
There you go.
Try to pay a large amount every time versus the smaller amounts, because then if you do need to utilize it again, that you can pull it all out again. So I differ in those two from a closed-ended second and a HELOC, depending on the conversation with the client. I would love to know your way of doing those two before we kind of talk about the true cash out refinance. But what is your opinion on that matter?
I agree with you. I mean, it depends on the project size, the budgets, and really what the goals are in the renovation or renovations, right?
Okay.
So it is going to, as you said, I agree with you 100% that it depends on what the person's needs are, right? Every situation is going to be different. Everybody's going to be different. And what Josh has done, Josh and his wife has done, it's going to be different than the next person we talk to, right? So it's going to be, we have to be able to fit. And that's a great thing about what you and I do, Joe, is that we're able to fit the many different products, if you will, to the needs of the person. So just, for everyone, talk to someone that understands this so that you can get the right financial help and advice.
Well, and one thing we need to talk about too is when you're doing improvements to your house or you're doing renovations, a regular home equity line of credit is 80% max in most, in the state of Texas, right, at least. And then when it comes to renovations, sometimes you don't have all the equity in your house. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to talk about this too. So when we did our pool in our upstairs, our house we didn't have $200,000 worth of equity in our home. So I couldn't have done a HELOC on that just to keep trying to renovate and things like that. So that's also where a closed-ended second home improvement loan. It's not cash out. I'm not getting the money directly. I have to ask for draws. I have to submit receipt, or I have to have a contractor that submits a draw receipt. Well, on those, the reason I like them is depending on the size of your project and the equity you have in your house, they will take let's say that your house is worth, easy math for me today. Let's say your house is worth, $500,000. Okay. They'll loan up to 75% of the additional expense of that renovation. So if I'm doing like my home is worth $500,000 today, and I'm doing $200,000 or $100,000 worth of renovation, they'll loan up to 75% of that renovation amount. So they'll give me $75,000 roughly of that. And then what they'll do also is they'll do a calculation of what the home's worth is going to be. And then they'll go up to 90%, subtract out your first mortgage. And if there's more than that $100,000 in there, you might not be out any money to do those renovations. You can't do that on a HELOC because that's considered a true cash out, where a home improvement loan is not considered a cash out, but you're still utilizing equity in your home. So sorry, I know that went off topic a little bit, but it kind of goes to the renovation part we're talking about.
Yep, exactly. And we've got another one here. Cynthia, thank you for watching, by the way, chiming in. She says, love the flexibility of equity loans that they give. Absolutely. I totally agree. It's just a matter of getting the right one for what your budget and project is, I think. But yes, they have good flexibility. HELOCs do. Absolutely.
I was going to ask you the question, Joe. We've talked a lot about the two loans and things like that, but let's talk about what areas of your home, in your opinion, are ones that you need to focus on that might drive more equity in your home or future value of your home.
So there's a couple of different areas. When I, like I said, in my home in Michigan, when I looked at doing some updates and that before putting it on the market, there were really two different primary areas that I wanted to focus on. One was the kitchen, and the other was some of the landscaping out front for more of a curb appeal, right? As people came to it. Because that's the first impression, right? When they're outside looking at your home, that's their first impression. First impressions are, as we know, are very important. So I wanted them to have a great first impression in seeing my home. And then, of course, the kitchen, I think, is a big one to be able to put money into, that you will get value in the end of your home. Yeah.
Yeah. Typically kitchens. I agree with you. Curb appeal is one of the things that catches a person's eye if you're trying to sell your house. Also, if it catches your eye, if you're driving home and you come home to dead grass, weeds everywhere, does that really put a smile on your face? Where if you come home, it doesn't have to be a perfect yard, but grass in the yard, some flowers or plants and things like that. It's a mental thing to me, and that helps. But I agree with you. The kitchen, you're going to get dollar for dollar or more back in the improvement of the value of your home. You might not get that on the landscaping, but you get the peace of mind. You also get people that want to see that house if you're selling it, or people driving by that, oh, that's a beautiful home. If you need that kind of thing for your mental ability, that's always great. But I agree with you. Kitchens is number one. To me, bathrooms is number two.
Okay. Yep.
Especially your master bathroom. When your wife or your significant other or your partner opens that door, and that's like their love language of, I open a door to the bathroom that I feel like it's a spa.
Right.
It doesn't have to be all the things at a spa, but it has to feel that way to her. And that adds, again, dollar for dollar value or more, in my opinion. And I would love contractors to tell me I'm wrong. I would love appraisers to tell me I'm wrong.
I don't think you're wrong. And because here's the thing, and I'm going to be somewhat blunt about this. A lot of these things, these rooms that we're talking about, the bathroom, especially the master bathroom and the kitchen, this is what the wife is going to be looking really to, for her needs, right?
Yep.
Us guys, as long as
we have a shower and a toilet, we're good.
Right, exactly, to be honest with you. So we are appealing more to the wife's needs and wants, because let's face it, she's going to make the final decision anyways, right? Yes. On buying that home. And the landscaping outside, the flowers, like you said, and the kitchen, is it have the cupboard space in the pantry that she's happy with, and the colors of the counter and the backsplash, all these different things. And like you said, when she walks into the master bathroom, she wants it to feel like she's walking into a spa.
Yeah.
Right? And that's going to really add value in her mind. Right. So
we got another comment. I think Josh is using some AI chat GPT stuff to ask these questions, because this is a long one. I'm going to let you read it.
Wow. Okay. Let me pop it up. Are you going to pop it up? Okay.
It almost covers our faces.
This just is Josh, way too, dude. You really need to, let's get him a hobby, Joe.
This is Josh's job. Remember, he's our director of engagement, our coffee roundtables. This guy has a brain that works like no other, and I love it, because he probably didn't use Chat GPT to come up with this. So valued
vanities and bathrooms, refresh mixture, fixtures, mirrors, lighting, and tile, spa vibes. So appliances, kitchen, modern appliances, updated finishes in the kitchen bring top return on investment. Landscaping, curb appeal, first impressions start at the street, porch, lawn, lighting, paint, manner. Okay, you update master bedroom, turn it into a sanctuary, right? And I don't know, do we have, it was too long. It cut things off, Josh. It was too long. That's a hint, by the way.
I think is that energy. I think that's going to be the first word, is energy. So
maybe it was. I don't know, but thank you, Josh. Thank you for your brain working overtime. We love you for it. We truly do. I think you could probably turn that one into an entire coffee roundtable, by the way.
He probably will too. I love that.
Thank you, Josh.
I know we're coming up at the end of it.
I don't care. Keep going.
That's exactly right. The one thing I want people to understand too is it's okay to do some luxury items, like a pool in the backyard. It's not going to return a dollar for dollar on what you're putting into that backyard. But I will say on our house, if we did not have that backyard, that house would not have sold as quick as it did. Mm-hmm. And the reason for it is, That the kitchen was nice. It was, not updated, but it had granite and had big cabinets and things like that. But once you opened that back door and went out, we did an awesome job back there. I would say, with appreciation and stuff like that, we got our money back. But the memories and the time and the things that we did in that yard meant more to me than if it was going to increase my home by $150,000.
Right. I mean, it really comes down to whether it's like a lifestyle upgrade, like what you're talking about, as far as the backyard, the pool, hot tubs and stuff like that, or if it's a return on investment upgrade. Those are the two that we're really talking about here.
Yep.
And if I could add one more, I want to get to Cynthia. I do want to get to your comment, by the way, but I want to comment on one that nobody has commented on, even you and I, Joe, but the roof. Okay. Because especially here in the Houston area, and this is partly why this is partly why homeowners insurance is so expensive right now, is the roofs. And when you go to sell your home, that's going to be one of the first things that they ask is, how old is the roof? Right. And the insurance agent is also going to be asking that. It's going to play into your insurance premium. So I think the roof is another great ROI, not lifestyle, but ROI investment.
So I'm going to, what you want to do on a roof before you tap into your equity to replace it is get an inspection done. Because there might have been hail damage to your roof you don't know about. There could have been a storm that, even a couple of pebble size hail, if it's enough of it, could damage your roof if it's an older roof. So, yes, our insurance premiums are high and, we pay them. We don't like people making false claims, but, we've got to make claims when they're right. And if your roof needs to be replaced, have it inspected. And then see if your insurance will if you can claim it on your insurance, because then you're not eating up your equity. But like my parents, they went 30 years almost. Their house is built in 97. So almost 30 years. They have never replaced the roof, but they live up in Missouri. They've had hail storms and things, and my dad just never got inspected. They finally got it inspected, and the insurance company won't replace it because they're like, well, the age of your roof, it's at the end of the life. So get that inspection done. But I agree with you, Joe. When you're selling your house, a new roof will make that more attractive to a buyer, because their homeowner's insurance, no joke, is at least $1,000 minimum less a year because of that roof versus one that has a roof that's 5 years plus old.
Yep. I agree.
And it is because of the hail damage and stuff. So I do the return on your investment. Will get your house sold quicker. You might not be able to get dollar for dollar, but it is huge when it comes to your homeowner's insurance. And you could get a better premium on your homeowner's insurance if you replace your roof.
Yes.
So
before we wrap up, start wrapping things up, let's jump in with Cynthia real quick. My sister repainted the whole house, made a pretty accent wall with woodwork for her dining room area, and she always gets compliments. Totally agree. Those little things like that really don't cost a lot. I mean, a bucket of paint is like $50 if you get a good quality, paint. Yep. So painting, I think, is another great way to add character. And, as long as you're using warm colors and, colors that aren't bright and just, people walk in and they have to take a step back. I mean, that really complement it. Right. And that they're softer. I think, really helps when you do go to sell the home, that people walk in and it's more attractive visually to them. So, yeah.
Well, and a fresh coat of paint just makes everything look cleaner. Your walls look cleaner. Your floors look cleaner. Sometimes they make them look dirtier. So you might get the paint and be like, oh God, I need carpet. So again, thank you again for this series, Joe. I think it's a great one that we went through. Equity in your home can be utilized for multiple different things. Hopefully you guys all understand that through what we've talked about the last couple of weeks. We want you to reach out. We want to help people with this. So who do you know that maybe could look into using their equity? older couples that have lived in homes for years, this is where we want to help anybody and everybody. Have them email us or have them reach out to us, because we want to help people and answer their questions. And we're going to lead them in the right direction, because some people might not need the equity out of their home. And if you don't, we're going to tell you, I recommend you doing it this way instead of that way. So.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you, Joe, for some pro tips there. Let me add one or two more here. Not only talk to a trusted lender like the Joes, but keep resale in mind, even if you're not planning to sell soon. And any updates that you're looking at. Consider phased renovations if budgeting is tight on
That's a good one.
Right? Okay. All of that, with all that said, it is at the end of the show, a little bit over, I noticed, but that's okay. We have a lot of great information on here. If you want to catch up on any of the past episodes, especially in this series, I think this was a great series for everyone as far as utilizing the equity of your home. Go to our YouTube channel at the Mojo Show Real Estate Podcast there on our YouTube channel. And while you're there, be sure and hit the subscribe button because we are definitely on a mission to get to 1,000 subscribers, and every like, comment, and share helps us reach more home buyers like yourself. Equity is more than just a number. Keep this in mind, everyone. It's a tool to really enhance how you live. So whether it's reducing debt, whether it's improvements on your home, or purchasing the next home or investment property, the key is being strategic, staying within budget, and choosing the right financing. If you've got equity and a home improvement dream, let's talk about how to make it a reality. Call Joe or I as we can strategically build, that's how we did that, Joe, build the right financial plan for your home's equity. Next week, though, tune in. We appreciate everyone tuning in today. Please tune in next week, every week, Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. Central. Next week, we're going to be discussing what to do after you've been pre-approved. More importantly, what not to do after you've been pre-approved. So be sure and tune in next week, Wednesday, 9 a.m. Central. Before we do close things out, though, Joe, any last words or nuggets of advice for our listeners?
Just thank you guys for listening in. Hope to see you or hear from you by next Wednesday.
Fantastic. Well, I'm Joe Mortgage, and that handsome guy with the beard is Cup of Joe Mortgage, and we'll see you next week. Mr.